Welcome to the Virtual Cheese Awards 2024, showcasing the very best of British cheese. My name is Cara and I am moderating this wonderful session this afternoon. We are judging an incredible class of cheese, which is E2 Washed Rind class, which is always a hotly contested class of cheeses, and we are ready to go. I'm joined today by some phenomenal queens of cheese, as I called them earlier, who are going to be judging the cheeses that have been submitted. And within that, they will explain why we have chosen them as a judge, because we believe that they are two of the best in the country to judge cheese. Over to you, Bronwyn.
Well, thank you very much for that. I'm Bronwyn Percival. I'm the Technical Director of Neal's Yard Dairy and the head of the Technical Committee for the Specialist Cheesemakers Association, where I work quite closely with Sarah. So I'm really excited to be judging washed rinds. It's always a divisive category, so I'm sure we're going to have some interesting conversation.
Hello, I am Emma Young. I'm also known as the Cheese Explorer over on the old social media. I am a cheesemonger. I train lots of people in retail all across the world for places like Mons Formation and the Guild of Fine Food. I also have written a book about cheese flavour called The Cheese Wheel. Look at Cara, she's self-plugging me, thank you kindly. And what else do I do? Lots of things in cheese. So yeah, equally excited to be here. I love washed rind cheeses. This is going to be a fabulous category.
And I'm just so jealous. It's ridiculous.
It really smells though. My mum's house. I'm in my mum's house today. She's not going to be happy with me. It is a heady aroma in here.
You have to eat it all, Emma. Right. So we will make a start. The judges will be using a point system to judge scoring against 4 different attributes. It will be aroma, appearance, texture, and most importantly, flavour. And the winner will be the cheese with the most points that will go forward to the category stage finals on Tuesday, the 14th of May. Let's dive straight in there, ladies, and we are going to cheese. I shall read it out. E2 1110.
I think I might keep mine in the paper.
Okay.
It's quite tacky. It is definitely a smelly number in a nice way, but I'm going to keep it and make it look pretty
on the paper. Well, then maybe I will too, to avoid transfer. There we go. It is quite tacky. Mine was kind of holdable and liftable without leaving a lot of rind on my fingers, which I think is, I don't know if ours are in slightly different conditions, but mine's pretty happy.
Mine's happy. It's got a bit of damage around the outside that just may have been in transit though, but in terms of actually holding it, it is not coming away from the surface. It's not leaving a huge amount on my fingers. It is pongy.
Pongy. All right.
Colour wise, it looks lovely. I think it is a good size. I think that you can give it a bit of a pudge and it's got some breakdown under the rind. It's a nice sort of peachy colour. I'm excited.
It's quite bright on the inside as well. It looks like a lactic cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Real heady aroma.
It's quite interesting because a lot of I find that a lot of washed rinds hold back from being too funky. This one's not holding back.
Wow, there's a lot going on there. Super silky texture. I have to say, I really like the texture a lot. It's really satiny. And I think it works really well with the flavor as well.
I think the texture, as you said, it looks like a lactic. It breaks down so nicely. Not breaks down, it just smooths out. It's almost spreadable, isn't it? The aromas are heady. The texture it's got a nice acidity though, hasn't it? So it's like really big and bold and umami and savory and but but it's also got a really sort of fresh acidity to go alongside that, so you don't just feel like you're in a fog of full flavor. It gives a bit of a nice lift as well.
Totally. Yeah, it's fresh, so it's not swampy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm very impressed by that.
Yeah, me too. That's lovely. I'm ready.
Yeah, me too.
It's really got a long length as well, hasn't it? So it's still going. It really is not holding back.
Yeah, I could see this be a love it. You know, this is a Marmite cheese.
Oh, absolutely, and it tastes a bit like Marmite.
And it does taste a bit like Marmite. In every sense, it's a Marmite cheese.
Okay, let's go for appearance.
Judging from mine, I'm going to give it quite high marks. I like the kind of the rosiness of the color, and how even and bright it is. So I would give quite a high score on that one.
I'm going to go with yours just because the outside doesn't look like it's a cheese making fault. It doesn't look like the rind slipped off. It may have just been knocked in transit. The peachy colour's the same. It's sort of rosy, pinky, peach, and I quite like yeah, the rind is behaving very nicely. So where are you sitting in score?
8.5.
Perfect. Aroma is it's full on, but I feel like it's even though it's full on, it's missing something weirdly. Like I don't know what, but maybe it's not missing anything. Maybe I've just got a preconception of what I think it would smell like from looking at the cheese.
Like it's a very strong aroma. Do you want it to be more kind of savory, more filled out?
I think so. Just that's not a problem with it. I think that's just what I want. What do you think of the aroma?
I mean, it's quite farmy. It's a little bit sour. I think it's interesting. I could see where you're coming from if you want maybe a little bit more like guts, but
yeah.
it's I don't know. I would still put it pretty high up there.
I would too. I think I'm going to score very high elsewhere. I think the aroma's still high. Maybe similar, sort of like 8.
Yeah, fine with me.
8.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Texture, you were waxing lyrical about this.
I mean, for me, this
Spot
is 9.5 on texture. It's
9.5. It's dreamy, silky, smooth, spreadable. It just feels amazing in the mouth. It's 9.5. What's wrong with it? There we go. What is wrong with it? Why is it not a 10? Because I'm not sure it's a 10 either. But is it?
I think I would worry if I had this on a cheese counter that by the end of the day, if I had been picking up and putting down a piece of it, it would be in rough shape. It just feels a little bit delicate to me. Is that a texture thing?
Yeah, and also I think just having another piece there, the rind has an ever so slight texture, to
Like
a bit of a chew to it that possibly could be a little bit more integrated, but it isn't. It's 9.5 then. Yeah, that's why it's not a 10.
And flavour.
It's outstanding. It's really, really mind-blowing. The complexity is there. It's very, very cleverly made. It's not holding back, but it's also not just a whack in the face of flavor. It's got layers of complexity. You can taste elements to it. It is strong, but it has that sort of lactic acidity to cut through it. I think it's spot on.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say it's exquisite, Emma.
It is exquisite.
Yeah, and
no faults to the flavor.
I mean, I think it's pretty close to perfect. But you know, just in the same way as when we're grading cheese at a farm, I would never give a cheese a 5. I don't think I physically can give any cheese a 10.
No.
It's just like, where do you go from there? So and it's the first cheese we're tasting in this category. I mean, we can't put everything else in, you know, in a corner by doing that. But what I would say is it's really, really good. I wouldn't hold back from giving it a 9 or a 9.5 for sure. And I love how it's full on and crazy. And at the same time, it's fresh, because for me, that's
it's really hard to do.
Yeah.
I think 9.5. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. Chapeau to the cheesemaker for not holding back on a washed rind, because sometimes you can have the tendency to want to please everyone. If you want a washed rind, you want a blooming washed rind, and this is doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just recap those for you then, guys. You've gone appearance 8.5, aroma 8, texture 9.5, and flavor 9.5.
The cheese to beat.
Yeah.
So far. Okay, next one we're moving on to is E2 1115.
I've ripped it slightly, but here you go.
Thanks,
Cute
Okay.
little button.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
does feel like a cheese you could pick up and put down all day long and it would be just fine. It's quite, it's quite heavy, quite solid.
It is, yeah. I kind of like that. I mean, the last two were sort of very vibrant and peach and orange. This is slightly more matte, which is cool. It definitely does feel like something that will not run off your counter and you can rely on, and you can ignore it and come back and it'll be happy. Are you getting something slightly goaty on it?
Yeah, actually, I was gonna say something slightly seashorey, but I think goat is probably a better like a mollusk or something.
Yeah. Yes.
Scallop.
Mollusky.
Let's see what's inside. Yeah, I think you were absolutely right to call it out on like it's very pale. Be interesting to see.
Ah, as it's coming away, yeah.
Yeah, it's slipping out. I mean, I did push it there, but it was coming out anyway. The color's lovely. It has got a nice breakdown, but it is going to slip out.
It's interesting. It looks like your cheese got a little warmer than mine did. Because mine is quite.
Oh yeah,
it's really different.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. So mine, yeah, exactly. Mine is doing the same as yours, but with added breakdown. So yours will get there. I'm not getting a huge amount on the aroma.
No, it's quite a cautious washed rind. Really nice flavor. I agree with you. I think it's goat, and it wears that goatiness very, very delicately. Quite elegant. Doesn't taste particularly washed to me. I mean, it smells washed, it looks washed, but it doesn't really taste washed. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I really, really like the sort of savory, slightly umami flavor that's happening within. There's something with a seaside again, sort of quality, like sort of saline, a bit seasidey. But the wash, the only reason I know it's a wash is because it's orange, and I've got a bit of a grittiness as well. But apart from that, I don't think the wash is giving much to it.
I agree. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, after that first one, the ordering effect, I'm sure, is very, very strong. But it feels like it's pulling its punches a little bit.
I do really like the flavor within, but I don't quite see it as a washed rind. It doesn't feel. It feels like the wash is just topical. It doesn't feel like it's done much to the actual cheese.
Totally.
Okay, shall we give it some scores? Appearance.
Appearance is nice.
Yeah.
But
a bit of cracking. Mine does look slightly different to yours, and if I was going to be really picky, mine has got a bit of a sort of grey dullness, a little bit on the outside.
It also feels like maybe there's a little bit of wetness. It feels like it's been washed with, to me, it feels like it's been washed with quite a lot of liquid. I could be totally wrong, but
or dipped maybe. I don't know.
Like it was once soggy and it's pretty much dried out, but there are little patches on the surface that feel a little soggy still. So 7?
You want to give it
7?
Yeah, 7.
Roma?
it feels like it's holding back. So it's a washed rind category, and I can't really smell the wash, which feels odd. Like to start with, we really had to sort of inhale it to smell much, and then we did smell something which was a bit sort of ozony or seasidey and a bit goaty, but it's not got a washed characteristic, which is quite bizarre.
It's like when you have a washed rind cheese and it's a goat's milk cheese, and you're like, wow, the biggest smell is that it's a goat's cheese. That's surprising.
Yeah. Yeah.
So 6.
The texture.
I think the texture of the lactic cheese within is really, really nice. I think the texture of the rind, it gets between my teeth a little bit. It's a tiny bit distracting. So, you know, I might knock it a little bit from the rind texture perspective, even though I think it's very, very nice paste.
I completely agree. The paste within is silky. It's lovely. The breakdown I've got, even though the rind has started to slip off a bit, it is very good. The grittiness is, the sandiness is distracting a lot. Maybe 7.
That's fine. I think that's good.
Yeah.
8. And then flavor.
Just a bit too quiet for me. It's
Yeah.
like I think there's nothing bad about the flavor, but I just want it to be turned up a lot more if it's this style of cheese. Even as a goat's cheese goes, it feels a bit quiet and subdued. And so I might say, like, not bad. 7.
I think that the flavor is good. I do think that in a washed rind category, it should have some influence on the cheese itself. It really does feel like the wash is not really doing much to it. I wonder whether this, if it wasn't a washed rind, might be absolutely phenomenal. Did you say 7?
I did maybe, but now that I'm hearing you, I might go a little less than that, just in terms of like type. 6.5?
6.5. Yeah.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna read that back to you. Appearance 7, aroma 6, texture 7, flavor 6.5.
Yeah.
Fab.
Great.
Moving on to E2 1141, please.
This looks like it's going to be fully broken down.
Yeah.
Hmm.
This kind of started to flake off on my paper as well. Can you see that?
My fingers are about to go straight through it, so I'm going to put it down. Yeah, it's almost like the rind is breaking apart because the paste is so soft. Any slight tension on the cheese just is crumbling the rind apart.
It also feels like it may have been washed a bit too much.
Yeah,
So it started to do that drying out thing. So like when you wash your face too much, your face dries out. It feels almost like it's doing that.
And it's flaking off in that way. Did you just cut it? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's hard to see, but it is not holding together at all. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it does. You know, we were talking in the last category about cheeses that weren't ripe enough, and I wonder whether we're seeing this really at the end of its lifespan. To me, it feels either like it's been aging in fast motion or that it's just quite old, but it does feel a little bit senescent from that perspective.
Yeah. The aromas coming off it, however, are still pleasing. There are some sort of nice meaty, savoury aromas coming off. There is a bit of ammonia as well, but from looking at it, it looks quite gnarly. The aromas don't quite match up to that gnarly. They are more pleasing aromas than I was expecting from first looking at it.
I agree. There's a sort of characteristic sourness that I associate with kind of that vinyl-y smell that you would get with a Munster or something.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm using a cracker as a vessel. I'm not tasting it. It's just it's really soft.
I mean, and I like that silky texture as well, like on the inside.
On the inside, it's lovely. It is just not being held together by anything particularly. It's a bit hot and it is over. It's gone over its prime. I really do think it has been washed too much. And you can, I can't pick it up again, I don't think, but the rind has just started cracking and you can't pick it up at all without it sort of starting to fall apart. Whereas Bronwyn said a finger just went straight through it.
We could get our time machine again and go back 2 weeks. And I'd like to see this cheese again, because I do feel like we're not seeing it at the right point in its lifetime.
Okay.
But I also agree that maybe the way it's been treated during its maturation is accentuating that. All right.
Did we talk about the actual flavor itself? I mean, we said there was some savory flavors with the little ammonia.
I think we just said it was over, so it's gone into sort of hot. It's gone into some not so pleasant flavor profiles. It's over the top, sort of slightly ammoniated. It isn't showing many attributes that you'd want to taste in a washed rind flavor.
And it's thoroughly in a kind of alkaline zone where the rind bacteria and so forth have deacidified it to this point where it does have this slightly oily, like alkaline sensation, alkaline kind of flavor on my tongue, which I'm like, I don't know. I feel like it's lost all of its freshness.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, ladies. Do we want to go and score it?
Yep.
Appearance-wise,
Yes.
I feel like, again, it's not in great condition from a appearance point of view. And so, you know, putting aside that we're not against rusticity, I feel like this is just it's not looking great. It's kind of falling apart. The rind is a bit kind of composty and breaking apart. So I think from a visuals perspective, I would mark it down for that, maybe around a 6.
I think I'd go even lower, to be honest, because on my one it really has flaked. It's not right. It's flaked. It's falling apart. I will try and hold it up just so you can see, but like it isn't the right color. The rind is not holding together. It is bitty. I really don't think that this is at the stage of affinage that it should be tasted at. But this cheese in front of me, I can't really give more than a 5.5. Do you want to go in the middle, or?
No, let's go with 5. I think that's fair, to be honest. And you know, I think this cheese had a better appearance, hopefully, at some point in its life. But right now, what's in front of us is a 5.
So I'm sticking with the 5, guys, on appearance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Aroma.
I mean, it is very, very ammoniated, which again goes along with the degree of ripening. There's a sort of interesting vinyl thing going on, but yeah, I think again, the place where we're hitting this cheese in its lifespan, the aroma is a bit, it's coming apart. It's feeling a bit muddled.
Yeah, I think that even though there are some sort of nice savory notes on the nose coming through, they as a whole, which we're looking at, that they don't hold up enough to the other aromas which are taking away from it, and that the faulty sort of it has gone over and ripeness is completely taking over. So I think where do you want to sit in aroma?
5.5.
Yeah.
6. Yeah.
6 if you want. I think 5.5.
5.5. Yeah.
Lovely. Texture.
Inside, custardy, runny, lovely. People love this kind of texture. However, you can't really hold it. You can't sell it. As soon as you cut into it, it's all over the floor. And the texture of the rind itself is dry. It's pappy. Not pappy, sorry. It's powdery. It's a bit papery as well. So it overall, again, even though it's got a nice sort of liquidy, gooey texture, as a whole, it isn't right. So the texture is taking away, isn't it, that rind?
I agree. And like the distraction of the texture of the rind as you're eating it really kind of destroys the niceness of the paste, you know. So yeah, again, texture wise, I don't know, 6.
6, yeah.
Finally, flavour.
There are some elements which come through where you can see that a few weeks ago this would have been a very different cheese. There are some sort of nice savoury elements there, but once again, like with every other criteria here, they are drowned out by everything else. So with the flavour, I can't score very highly because the overripe, spicy ammonia and what did you mention? Sort of alkaline
sort of,
alkaline. Yeah, it's all taking over a bit.
Yeah. 5.5?
Yeah. 5.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you. I'm going to recap for you. We've got an appearance 5, aroma 5.5, texture 6, and flavour 5.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to our next cheese. We have E2 1163.
All right.
Little different.
Got a sort of raclette looking cheese.
Yeah.
Nice yellow paste, nice pink rind.
Yeah, lovely golden paste. The rind is obviously washed but kept really well.
I like this sort of flossy mold that's growing over the pink.
Yeah.
That's an attribute of washed rinds that I really enjoy. So it's not just bacteria. There are a couple things living in harmony.
Yeah.
When I was scraping it, it seems like it's not particularly broken down. I would say this is quite a young cheese. Quite curdy.
It does feel quite curdy, doesn't it? Yeah. I mean, it looks very well behaved. It does feel a lot firmer than I was expecting cutting it. Yeah. Yeah, and on the palate.
Nice, rich, kind of sweet, milky, almost pickly kind of flavors.
Yeah.
There's like, given the curdiness, often I associate curdy cheeses with sort of less flavor development, but this actually has quite a nice round warm flavor. Not strong, but like there's something going on.
There's also a bit of a sort of slight brassica note coming from closer to the rind. It feels young and slightly restrained, but even so there's quite a lot happening. So it's it's nice. It's good cheese.
Anything on the mouth feel?
Bit dense.
Dense and then kind of chewy and curdy. I do think a few more weeks might allow this to really relax a little bit. Because it feels like it's made to break down. It doesn't feel like it's just going to end up as a curdy cheese. So I would say, yeah, it feels young, kind of almost more than it tastes young.
Yeah.
Okay, do we want to go market?
Yeah. Oh, go. Okay, sorry. Appearance is very pretty. It looks very pretty. Nice sort of rose color. I like what Bronwyn said as well. It's got that sort of white, sort of almost dusting to it. It looks very pretty, and I like the bright golden yellow paste as well. It's a very good looking cheese.
What do you think? 8?
8.5. I think it's lovely. 8.5.
Sure.
Okay, aroma.
mean, it's so funny comparing this cheese with the first cheese that we put in this category. Like, they're both washed rinds, but they're just completely doing different things. So, I mean, you could say, well, that doesn't have much washed rind character, but I think it does for this style of cheese, but it's just manifesting itself in a completely different way because
Yeah.
the substrate is completely
Should.
different.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't say it has a huge amount of aroma, but what's there is nice.
I think exactly the same. I think it's a subtle, sort of gentle, elegant aroma. It's got a bit of complexity still within, with sort of slightly musty earthiness alongside sort of vegetal and a bit of dairy notes. I think it's a nice nose.
Mm-hmm. 7?
Yeah.
On to texture then.
Slightly firm. So
Yeah.
I think it's good, but it feels as though it's in a phase which it doesn't want to be in. And it feels a little bit more toothsome and slightly firmer than I think it is wanting to be, going from the style.
I agree. And I think in a couple more weeks, it would be there.
Yeah.
But as it is, you know, if we're going to mark the last one down for being past it, we can mark this down a little bit for not quite being there yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would probably, I don't know, what do you think? Is that a 7? Is that a 6.5?
I think it's either one of those. I don't think it's 6.5. I think it's 7. I think it's still 7 because the texture is fine. It is not quite where it should be, but it's not faulty.
It's not faulty. No. No, I'm happy with that 7.
And then finally, flavor.
I'm quite positive on the flavor, to be honest. I feel like the warmth of the flavor and I completely agree with you when you mentioned brassicas. I think there is something a little bit sulfurous, but in a really interesting kind of nice way.
Yeah.
And it's a warm, round, gentle, but interesting flavor.
Yeah. 7.5, 8,
Yeah.
8.
8, 7.5. I don't really mind either way.
Come on, decision.
Let's go 8.
Thank you, Bronwyn. Okay. Moving on to our next one, E2 1170.
Yeah. Another nice pink rind.
Very nice. Oh, and a halo.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
I'm going to trim that up a little bit. It looks like it's a tiny bit dry on the cuts.
You guys, you want to taste it at its best.
Exactly. It's traveled a long way to get to us.
It's just topical. As soon as you trim like a tiny bit off, it's completely fine. It's just dried out in the packaging. The rind, however, does feel quite dry. Like a bit flaky dry.
Yeah, I agree. The paste, in fact, the rind is doing that peeling off thing.
Yeah, it's shedding.
Talking about there. Just lifting off a little bit. And Emma, were you saying you think that's an overwashing thing?
I think so. So yeah, there's sort of a sweet spot, isn't there, between washing cheese where you're not doing the job correctly, but then overwashing it and actually changing the surface texture as well as the flavor influence you're looking at. So with cheeses which are generally sort of more on the semi-hard side, but even into more soft, if you overwash, you're actually drawing, I mean, you're using brine a lot of the time, or you're using water, you're actually changing that texture, you're drying it out slightly. Like when you go in the sea, your skin feels all a bit weird. You're also you don't want to touch the rind too much. It's a real work of art. Wash rinds are so hard to do. I think that overwashing definitely creates this sort of little peely number. But the paste smells fresh and clean. It looks quite nice in the middle. I like this sort of chubby baby number, like a little squishy thing.
Is that the texture?
Very milky. It's very milky on the nose. It's so
really lactic. And actually, given the texture, like surprisingly fresh and acidic.
Yeah.
I really actually quite like the paste.
Mm. There's a really slight granularity in the paste.
Mm.
Not on the rind. That's strange. Or sandiness.
I was expecting it to be quite dense and rubbery, and in fact, I would say it's almost more towards the lactic end of the structure. I mean, I don't think it's a lactic cheese at all, but it's sort of poised between those two sides of things, but there's a lightness to it, which I like.
Yeah, that was absolutely not what I was expecting in texture at all.
No.
It almost almost spreads in it. It's like butter, isn't it? Slightly like butter. It's very fresh. It's got a nice acidity. It's got a berry sort of sweet fruit.
Yeah.
Something happening as well. That's bizarre. Cool. Okay.
Bizarre in a lovely way. So you want to go back and have a little bit more.
Bizarre in a yeah, not bizarre in a oh god, what is that way? That's not what I was expecting. Right, and maybe not bizarre, intriguing,
like surprising.
Yeah,
and I actually quite like the flavor on the rind. It's very savory, very kind of toasty almost.
Yeah,
it is a little dry. It's a little dry. It does feel like it's been crisped a lot, but I don't know. I think it adds to it.
I think yeah. Sorry, go on, Cara.
No. I was just going to say, do we want to score it?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Appearance.
After a trim, I think it looks very pretty. I like the sort of the rosy pink nature. I like the size. It's quite good. The paste itself, even though it's nothing like it is in the palette, it looks lovely. It looks nice and springy and vibrant and enticing.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? 8?
Yeah.
Aroma.
Bit more muted. I'm not so sure on the aroma. It smells very milky, very lactic, but in a sort of a warm milk way, maybe for me. It's not a fresh, exciting, vibrant way. It's slightly more warm milk in a vat.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's not an aggressive or a scary or a sour washed rind. It's quite a kind of genteel kind of number. Yeah,
7?
I mean, I was gonna say maybe 7.5.
7.5, yep.
Hey,
texture.
Quite like the texture, actually. It was a surprise, but I like the lightness and the fresh, I like the lightness of it. I thought it was going to be something of a rubbery pellet, and it wasn't. So I found that pleasantly surprising.
I like the texture too in the paste. I think it's pleasantly surprising also. I do think that sort of dry, slightly flaky rind is taking away a bit for me. So I think 6.5, 7.
And when you really liked it?
7, I'm happy with.
7? Yeah, let's do 7.
Okay, and finally, flavor.
Tastes pretty good. Like I think it's pretty wholesome. I do like the kind of biscuity, hot buttered popcorn kind of aroma to the rind, which again is different than I expected it to be. That's how it tasted in a way that was a little different than I expected it to be. I think maybe part of my positivity about this cheese is that when I saw it first, it's exceeding the expectations I had when I first looked at it.
By a long way, I think. With that little trim, it's turned into a completely different beast. It surprised us. There are some really lovely flavors coming through in that sort of strawberry and fruity guys, as well as just the sort of milky, dairy, lactic flavor. I think it's intriguing.
What are we going to give it then? An 8?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've given it an 8 for appearance, 7.5 for aroma, 7 for texture, and 8 for flavor.
Yeah.
Now we are moving on to E2 1184, please. Ooh. Okay.
Quite pale one, huh? Quite soft.
Pale.
Really soft.
That looks unusual.
Gosh. It's quite wet on the rind.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm trying to figure out what kind of, again, going back to this idea of classifying things, I'm trying to figure out what this is so I can put it in context and start making judgments about it, because I feel a little bit thrown.
Gosh, I can't really pick it up. It's like almost sort of wet fish on around the outside. It smells yeasty.
Yeah, quite neutral, quite dairy, there's a little bit of that fruity, yeasty kind of bread dough kind of.
Bread dough for sure. It's quite hard to pick up, and the rind, as soon as you touch it, it leaves indentations in it, and it's also very slippery.
Yeah, it would be, I think it would be, from a monger's perspective, a little bit one that would be hard to handle. Like you would touch it, you would go to touch it and you would feel immediately like you need to wash your hands.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's not much coming from the nose. On the palate, it's very safe. It's got quite a nice sort of savory element to it. It is very simple.
Sort of a strawberry yogurt flavor. I wonder if that's something to do with the mixture of starters or whatever, but quite fruity, quite primary.
Yeah.
It feels like, I wouldn't be surprised if this, I don't think it's just a few days old, but it tastes like a supple curd,
yeah,
rather than a cheese that's tasting of breakdown or maturation.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Sorry, Bronwyn, you said it tastes of a something curd.
Like a few days old curd. It tastes like a curd that could have just been made, like very, very primary, not flavors of ripening. It's interesting, like, again, thinking about where this cheese would sit at home. I'm sure it would melt beautifully. I bet if you were cooking with it, it would give you an amazing sort of very dairy, very stretchy texture. I couldn't necessarily envision it like on a cheese board.
No, I think it would get lost. There isn't much character coming through which would stand up to other cheeses on a board. I think it is it quite low in salt as well? It's lacking something. It's feeling like it's sort of lacking a bit of complexity.
Yeah, the salt tastes all right to me, but I agree with you that there's just something, is like coming back again to that word primary. It's like extremely like delicate and slightly one note.
Yeah.
Okay, do we want to give it a score then, ladies?
Okay, on appearance, mine has, I mean, I don't know how much yours has got, but my rind doesn't look very happy at all.
It's a bit funny because it looks like it's maybe a little bit washed. It looks like it maybe has a little bit of mold trying to peek through, but more than anything else, it just feels a little bit underdeveloped. Like it hasn't been given the chance to do one thing or the other.
Yeah. I think I'm maybe about a 6.
Yeah, I was thinking that as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, aroma?
There's just not much happening, is there? So for aroma, I haven't got much coming off at all. Maybe a bit of a sort of yeasty or some sort of dairy aroma coming, but it's very, very muted and not just hiding. I don't think there isn't anything there because it hasn't developed.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing bad, but there's nothing that's projecting. Again, I think it's either very young or just very, very underdeveloped, like undeveloped. I don't know, another 6?
Texture?
I think it's well made. I mean, assuming that it wants to have that slightly shiny, squidgy, smooth, soft kind of texture. To me, I think it's doing what it's set about to do. The texture on the rind is a little bit like don't know, is this where we would talk about sort of sticky, slightly grainy feeling on my fingertips? That maybe detracts from it a little bit, but in terms of like the actual texture of the cheese itself, it feels pretty uniform, and you know, again, I can't fault it per se.
I'd maybe just add on my bit, it is slightly sticky in the mouth. So I don't know, mine does look quite different to yours. Mine looks a bit more squat. But it is a little bit sticky in the mouth. I think I'd probably be sitting around a sort of 6.5.
Yeah, I was gonna say 7, but like either or.
Can we do 6.5?
Fine, that's great.
Okay, and finally, flavour, please, ladies.
I guess again, we're thinking washed rind category. Obviously, like where does this cheese fit within that category? But I want something with more va-va-voom.
More
And
vavavoom, and also just in terms of the cheese on its own without the wash flavour, there's not much happening at this stage with it either. So it's just very very timid and sort of very, I think, undeveloped in most senses. So not just the wash element, but it is a wash rind category. So I think 6.
6 is fine. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I'm going to recap that for you. It's appearance is 6, aroma 6, texture 6.5, and flavour 6.
Yeah.
Great. And on to our final cheese, which is E2 1189.
Isn't that cute? Look at that box.
Yeah, very
Really
cute.
cute.
Nicely packaged. It's got a little kind of wax paper doily going on underneath. Comes out of its box easily. I guess one question I would ask is, why do you need a box for a cheese that's this, like, feels pretty stable? Maybe when we cut it open, we'll realize that it would totally fall apart without that box. The box is very cute. Don't get me wrong. But it feels a bit superfluous given the rigidity of the cheese itself.
Yeah, agreed. The texture of the cheese is good, though. Like, taking off the paper at the bottom, they have looked after it well. There's not really any residue. It's come off the paper well, so it is a very good looking cheese. And yeah, it looks very stable. So the box, does it have another purpose? Is it for retail? Is it for I'm not sure. But yeah, the color's lovely, nice and peachy, pinky, rosy.
Nice. And there's a little bit of other molds on there, but again, I'm not going to mark it down for that because I think sometimes having a spot of blue or gray or whatever in the context of this cheese makes it look nice and natural, and
Yep.
it's sort of not coming from a airless factory. So
yeah, absolutely.
That is stable as anything. Even maybe a little bit curdy. I wonder how much more that would break down with time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if it would from looking at it. It also has a bit of a sort of damp cloth aroma on the rind. So I was expecting either a bit more sort of freshness or a bit more savory, but there's something slightly fusty, musty, damp on the rind.
I agree. It's not a particularly powerful wash rind flavor, but it does smell a little bit musty.
I mean, texture-wise, I'm a sucker for a chubby, springy thing. I think it does that quite nicely.
Not too curdy.
No.
It melts away,
Mm.
which is good.
The rind has texture, but it's not papery. It's got a bit of give to it, but I quite like that. It's got just a slightly sort of toothsome element to it, but it's not distracting. I think that's quite a nice texture.
I agree. And there's a freshness there. It's nice. It's not making me think a lot.
Yeah, another session cheese there. It's quite yeasty. I like it. It's not showing like the sort of the most complexity. It's very easygoing, stable. Looks like it'll behave very well.
Could be like a snacking cheese. Again, you know, it's funny because this looks like a cheese board cheese. This looks like something that would be a real kind of interesting conversation piece, and it doesn't give me much to say about it.
No.
But it's very nice.
The one I think it is. I wouldn't stop eating it. It just sits there, and
It's a session cheese, perhaps, a snacking.
Yep.
definitely.
Yeah, but nice yeastiness, like really, like, yeah, really nice.
Okie dokie. Have we described the flavour other than yeasty? You said it's a lovely freshness to it and quite yeasty, easygoing and stable. Is there any more notes on the flavour?
It's very simple. I think that's kind of it. Yeah. Which makes it sessionable.
Go for some scores.
Do it. Okay.
Yeah, very pretty. Nice appearance, nice colour, good size, good shape, holds together well. The appearance is lovely. 8.5.
I'm gonna go for 8. I do think the box is a little bit like, it's annoying me.
Why?
Yeah. I'm going to say don't let it annoy you. There will be a reasoning behind it. So ignore the box.
Okay.
Still
Okay,
8,
yeah, that's fine.
8.
8.
Yeah.
8.5. 8. 8.
What do you
8.
think?
8.
8.
Lovely. Thank you. Aroma?
Didn't like it. So aroma, I think, let it down. That sort of damp, wet dog, wet J cloth, that really did detract away. And with a washed rind, you're expecting something either fruity or savoury or not wet, damp cloth. I think I'm maybe about sort of 5.5, 6 on the aroma.
I would go 6.
6.
I'm with you on that, though. I want more washed rind, a little bit more funky,
Yeah.
be a little more daring.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Texture.
I was gonna say, I thought it, you know, like when I was cutting it, when I was looking at it, I was gonna say, I was thinking it was gonna be marked down for curdiness, but then actually eating it, it's quite light, dissolves on my tongue. It's a nice texture.
I like the texture too. I like the spring to it. I don't think that it had any, I don't remember it having any grittiness. It had a nice sort of toothsome bite to the rind, and I thought they worked well together. I thought the texture was good.
So should we say like 7.5?
7.5, yeah.
Lovely. And finally, flavour.
It's easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Easy. It's very pleasing. It will reach a wide audience. Is it something that I think is shouting, I'm the most exciting washed rind? No, but it is doing a very nice job of ticking the boxes of tasting good, not having any faults, and being very sort of wide sort of audience available in its flavor.
Yeah. What do you think? 7.5?
Yeah.
Hey. You have given it 8 for appearance, 6 for aroma, 7.5 for texture, and 7.5 for flavour. Oh, gully doggly.
All right. Give us the rundown.
We have a joint silver on this one, which is E2 1170.
Yeah, this guy.
Yep. And E2 1163.
Okay.
63. I think. Yep.
And then the winner is there we go. E2 1170, which I think is probably a very classic washed rind, punchy in the face, little beastie.
It just perfectly executed, like really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. That I feel good about that result. I think, those were all cheeses showing really well today.
Me too.
Thank you, guys. And all that's left for me to do is to say what a brilliant afternoon it's been. Thank you so much for all your insights, and it's just a pleasure to sit here and listen to you. If you wouldn't mind just showing off your gorgeous Butlers and Virtual Cheese Awards pennies. Thank you, Butlers, for supporting us again, and obviously to the wonderful, amazing Peter's Yard, who are our cracker sponsors. So the winning cheese is going to go through to the final, to the category finals on Tuesday the 14th, is E2 1110, and hopefully to the grand final, which will be live as per usual on Wednesday the 15th of May. Thank you so much for all your help, and see you later on in the judging process.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.